Okay, second time's a charm. So here it is, the Gear4Music Knoxville Select. A lot happier with Gear4Music this time. If you've seen my last video, you'll know that I wasn't at all happy with them. I was even considering never using them again, but here we are. Now this guitar seemed quite well spec'd, especially for $179.99. One of the reasons I got it was for the roasted maple neck, and obviously the colour is undeniably nice. So already this guitar's doing much better than the last one from Gear4Music. It actually plays without choking out. There's a little bit of fret buzz, it needs a setup. This is it as it comes straight out of the box. First impressions, bearing in mind the cost of the guitar, aren't too bad. One thing I was really surprised about was how thin the body is. This is only 35mm as opposed to your normal 40. The first thing I noticed as I unwrapped it, because obviously you unwrap it headstock first, was the paint job around the headstock. Just a few minor blemishes on the edge, it's a little bit fuzzy, but again, painted headstock in a body matched colour it's not something you usually get in this price range. The binding is very strange. It may just pick up on camera, but it's got stripes to it, which is more noticeable when you get to the headstock. Interesting decision. It's 24 fret, and they're silver nickel medium jumbo. You've got a P90 at the neck, and a humbucker at the bridge. I don't know what these sound like yet, but we'll do a full sound test. Because as far as I'm aware, I'm the first reviewer on YouTube for this guitar. So, it's a first for the channel. This bridge is actually one that I've seen before. I've used it on another guitar. It does the job. The edges are a little bit sharp, so I may swap it out. I don't know yet. The scratch plate's probably going to be difficult to replace if you wanted to, because it's not going to be a standard Telecaster shape. It's more than likely a proprietary shape. Now I did get this as a modding platform, so I knew there'd be work to do. I didn't think that it was going to be perfect. First thing I absolutely have to change would be the strap buttons. They are so sharp, and I don't think that they're going to hold the guitar for long at all. So if you're buying one of these, budget for strap locks straight away. Now I did give it a quick tune before I started filming, and the tuners felt a little bit difficult to turn. Maybe consider replacing those just for a smoother experience. And while we're up in the headstock, you'll see there's a bit of a blemish here, but for the price, it's not a deal breaker. The back of the guitar is absolutely gorgeous. It seems to have a really, really thick coat of lacquer on it. It's obviously a through body stringing. You don't have a neck plate. You've just got the bolts straight into ferrules into the body, which is a nice touch. It's a bit classier. And those of you who know much about grains and wood types will know immediately that this is ash, which appears to be in 5 different pieces, but I don't think that makes any difference to the actual tone. The top is a quilted maple veneer, and it doesn't look like a cheap print like Ibanez are doing with their Geos. It looks like actual maple. For those who like neck specs, it's a C-shaped neck, and it's a 14-inch radius, so it's a lot flatter than your standard radius. Standard strat scale length, and it's standard Telecaster controls. You've got your 3-way switch, which is up for the P90, middle for both I'm assuming, and down for just the humbucker. Volume, tone, quite basic. Now onto the downside to this guitar, because every guitar's got a downside. There is one sharp fret at the 4th, which is quite good. Considering how cheap it is and only one fret is sharp, that's manageable. That's something you could even just sort out yourself without any issues. It does, however, feel like it's been over sanded just between here and here. The fret markers are a little bit proud, but I think that's something that I can sort out. And again, just the attention to detail around the edges of the paintwork. And it might be hard to pick up on camera, but you've got a little bit of discoloration around the pickup cavity. So, things I'd change. First off, strap buttons. We've covered that. Secondly, I'm going to see how the pickups hold up. Obviously, we know what we want from humbuckers. I've not had much experience with P90s. I've had a little because I've got a couple of guitars with them in. Next thing to change is the tuners. I should have a set of Wilkinsons lying around somewhere, and that's, again, purely my preference. These will probably do all right in the meantime, but if I'm going to change the strings, then I may as well change the tuners at the same time. The nut's plastic, but that's never a big problem for me. I've got loads of guitars with plastic nuts. It's not something I ever really notice. As standard, the guitar comes with 9 to 42 gauge strings. They're too light for my liking. I prefer my 10 to 46s, so I'm going to be switching those out as well. I'll probably have to alter the nut ever so slightly just to make them fit nicely. So with all that in mind, let's see what we can do with it.
Unpleasant surprise before we're done.
We're going to war! The world's gone insane! We're all hurting, but it doesn't stop us causing pain. We're biting, scratching, kicking in fear. On the defensive to stop people coming near us to die. But they don't report a name. They just tell us other countries just to blame. We stand together, but apart as a nation. We got no choice, we'll enforce desolation. We've been sold a lie, but it shouldn't be our fate. Fueling fire for our hate for the state. We're shouting, marching, screaming with rage. Directed to the man on the stage, it's the end. Our future's looking bleak. The victims are the poor, young, old, and weak. It's a call with too much variety. The government plays to streamline society.
And here we have the finished result. Everything worked out quite well. The tuners went in according to plan. I didn't have to do any drilling or routing of the actual holes. Straight replacement for modern tuners, that's always a good start. Mushroom strap button on the bottom, and my favourite kind of locking strap button at the top. There wasn't much else I had to do with it. I did my usual trick of a bit of wet and dry ultra fine sandpaper along the neck. Keeps the satin look, but it's got a silkier feel to it. And I also did a little bit of sanding just around where the binding was, purely because there was a bit of overspill on the glue. And if you remember, there was a little bit of glue overspill just along next to the nut, and that sanded straight out again with the wet and dry. I did end up finding that I had to sand the fretboard itself, and this is purely because once the strings were off, you could feel how sort of grainy it was. There was a texture to it. So I took all that off and now it's really smooth to the touch. As I mentioned, there was a little bit of an over sanding had happened along here, and you can still feel the fret marker there is a little bit proud, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was. The skeptics among you can rest easy that this is roasted maple throughout. I was a little bit dubious myself because you don't see roasted maple necks on a guitar in this price range. That new pickup is extremely hot. It really accentuates the warmer tone of the P90, which is nice. It's a little bit weaker, but it's nice to have that massive canyon between the tones on one guitar. So let's have a listen to how this new pickup sounds. Now, if I had one final criticism that I wasn't happy about with this guitar, it's the logo on the headstock. I'm not going to change it, I'm not going to take it off, because I think that where a brand has actually created a good guitar, or the basis of a good guitar, I think it should be shown. I think they should get their name on the headstock. My argument is that it's bright white and it's one of the ugliest logos I've ever seen. I don't understand why Gear4Music think that Gear4Music is a good brand name for the guitars that they make. So with Thomann or Thomann or Tommen or whatever you want to call them, they've got Harley Benton, and I think that that works really well, just having, you know, sort of effectively a sister company that carries the brand affiliation. You don't have to put a logo on that's as ugly as this. The other reason that I don't want to do anything with that logo is because I just love the finish on the headstock too much. So there we have it. Anything that I do in the future to this would probably be inlay stickers, just aesthetic things. I like the way it sounds now, I like the way it plays. For the most part, I like the way it looks. The finish is incredible. Yeah, that's the transformation done. Didn't really have to do very much to it all because I bought it because I love the look of it. If you've got any suggestions of things you'd like to see on my channel, just let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.